Hello class, today we are talking about section 2.7, which is percent of change. At the end of today's lesson, you will be able to calculate percents of change and use the percent of change equation to find missing values. Percent of change is a ratio that's looking at comparing the amount of change to the original quantity. Your equation for this is percent of change is equal to final value minus the original value divided by the original value times 100. Breaking this down a little bit to explain, this top value, the numerator part, that is the amount of change. You're taking what you ended up with and subtracting what you started with. The bottom part is dividing it by the original. That's how we create that ratio comparing to the original. Then we have the multiplication by 100, which turns it into a percent answer. Make sure when you are solving these problems, if necessary, you are rounding to 2 decimal places. So we want to have 2 decimal places for accuracy. The 2 different types we have are percent of increase and percent of decrease. Percent of increase happens when your final answer is bigger than your original answer. This is going to give you a positive percent. And the percent of decrease is when the original is the bigger number. So this is going to give you a negative percent or a negative final answer. So we are looking at an original value of 20 and a final value of 23. We have to decide if it's an increase or a decrease and then find that percent of change. So looking at our original, that is smaller than our final value. So this is going to be an increase problem. We are going up from start to finish. Using the equation, we're going to start with doing final minus original. Then we are going to divide that by the original and multiply by 100. You can plug this into your calculator all at once, but there is one key thing that you need to do if you are going to do that. You would type this into your calculator with parentheses around the numerator. If you forget those parentheses around the numerator, the calculator is not going to do order of operations correctly, and it is going to follow order of operations, and it would do the division before it would do the subtraction. So you need to make sure if you're plugging this into the calculator as one entire equation, you are putting parentheses around the numerator part. So we got 23 minus 20 in parentheses divided by 20 times 100. And your final answer to this problem is going to be a 15%, and we already said that that's an increase. So 15% increase in this problem. Go ahead and try this one on your own, making sure to round to 2 decimal places if necessary. So you should have gotten a final answer of negative 22.86%. I did this one a little differently. Instead of plugging it all in at once, I solved the numerator first, which gave me the negative 8. Then I can just type it in my calculator as negative 8 divided by 35 times 100. Either way, whether you plug it in parentheses or solve it piece by piece, you end up with the same answer. The other thing that we have to do today is solve problems where we have a missing value. Most of these are going to be word problems. So, the number of cruise ships in North America increased 18% from 2000 to 2005. If there were 192 ships in 2005, how many were there in 2000? First question we need to ask ourselves is, are we missing our final value or are we missing the original value? Looking at the problem, our original value is going to be what was in 2000, and our final value is what is in 2005. Since we know there we are 192 ships in 2005, that means we are missing the original. So that's going to become our variable. Plugging in, we end up with our final of 192 minus the original, which we don't know, dividing by the original, which again we don't know, times 100 is equal to 18. Then we're going to go ahead and use SAD MEEP to solve. Since that whole first part is in parentheses, we're going to deal with that last. So the first thing we need to do is divide by 100. That gives us 192 minus x over x is equal to 0.18. Next thing you're going to want to do, we're going to remember that top part, we're still treating it like it's in parentheses since it is a difference. So we're going to have to get rid of dividing by x. In order to get rid of dividing by x, we need to multiply by x. If we do it on one side, we have to do it on the other side. So I end up with 192 minus x is equal to 0.18x. I'm going to pause for a minute and point something out. Right now, on the left side of the equation, we have 192 minus x. It's helpful to remember that in front of the x on the left side, there is a coefficient of 1 that is standing for 1x. We now have a problem where we have variables on both sides, so we need to combine our variables. So I'm going to add that x to both sides of the equation, which gives me 192 is equal to 1.18x. To finish solving, we are going to divide by 1.18, and that gives us a final answer of 162.71. Looking at this, we are looking for the number of ships. It's really not possible for us to have 0.71 of a ship. However, we can't round this up because we don't have another full ship. So our final answer is 162 ships. So the key thing with word problems is figure out which part you are missing, the final or the original, and then use the equation to solve the rest of the problem. Go ahead and try this one on your own. In this case, you were missing the final value. It says 2862 was before tax, so that's our original. We were looking for the final cost. So the variable goes in place of the final value, and you should have gotten $30.69. If you have questions about this or any other parts of the lesson, please let me know when you get to class.